Hi, my name is Kiera, and this is Kiera of All Trades on Phresh Phactory TV. Thank you so much for coming to the show today. Our topic is Careers in Real Estate Residential Edition. So, you want to buy a house. Your friend bought a house last year. Now everything's going great. You call your friend. You say, hey, friend, I'm ready to buy a house. I saw last year you bought yours. Everything looks like it's working out great. Do you have anyone that you might be able to recommend to be able to assist me? Your friend says, man, that's great. So happy to hear that. Yeah, of course. I'm going to give you the number to my real estate agent. Obviously, they did a great job. You say, thank you, friend. I really appreciate it. What does the same person do next? They pick up the phone and they call that real estate agent. A very nice voice on the other end of the phone says, thank you for calling so-and-so's office. How may I assist you? You tell them, I just think I'm ready to buy a house. So I was wondering if the real estate agent would be able to drive me around to a couple places, let me see what's out there. And the person so very kindly on the other end of the phone politely asks you a question. Are you qualified for a mortgage at this time? You might not know the answer to the question. So you just say, no, I don't think so. I should be fine. So the person on the other end of the phone gently redirects you and says, your very first stop on the road of home ownership is a loan officer. And I'd be glad to recommend someone to speak with you. So, one of the first careers that we're going to discuss in the road to home ownership, the real estate careers residential edition, is going to be the loan officer. So you did speak with your friend, and your friend did give you a real estate agent's card and contact information. So a real estate agent is a licensed salesperson. Their job is to sell anyone, someone, you, a piece of real estate. But before they could do that, unless you are already financially qualified to purchase this property in cash, they will need to ensure that you are financially qualified to get a mortgage. So, the next person that you'll speak to is a loan officer. What you'll find in a lot of these careers in real estate is that people are paid based off commission, and some are paid in a transactional way. Many are paid in a transactional way. So, not to be funny, but most of the time, if you are not in a position to be able to get the things that you need taken care of in an immediate basis for what their step in the process is, you will move on to the other process that you can fulfill. There's lots of moving parts, and as we go along, you'll see why the process takes so long. But if I can give you any piece of information, it's good to know what everyone does so that if you do get stuck along the way, you'll know who it is that you need to contact in order to get the process moving again. So, the loan officer. The loan officer is a licensed individual whose job is to get you a mortgage that's been negotiated for the best rates and best fit for your needs. This person is licensed. This person works alongside mortgage loan officers and brokers in an office most of the time in order to be able to communicate all of their issues back and forth inside of a location. So You will find that this person works with a number of different organizations in order to help you qualify. They will be aware of those programs that are specially made for you. If you're a first time home buyer, they will let you know about programs for that. If you live in a certain zip code and they have mortgages in that area, they'll let you know. If you're a veteran, etc. So the loan officer or the mortgage broker is your friend when it comes to being able to find out about information that you may not be aware of that will help you and benefit you financially in the long term by being able to get a mortgage. But also, do your own homework. Find out exactly what type of loan products you can get on your own, for instance. There are banks, there's credit unions, there's also the loan officers, etc. So make sure that you remember that these are paid positions. Most of them are commission. So that means whenever your transaction closes, that this is a benefit to them. So please make sure to do your own homework and take care of as much of the process as you can on your own. So now that you've worked with the mortgage broker and the loan officer, you understand that there are plenty of documents that they need in order to help you get qualified. These people, again, are licensed and work underneath an organization, sometimes a broker, and the broker works underneath their license that's given by the state. So there are plenty of levels to go through if you, for instance, feel the need to ask questions or get guidance in those areas. There's all the way up to the Department of um, Savings and Mortgage Lending that you can ask questions to if you're confused about actions that are happening along the way. So they get you qualified for this here mortgage. Now you're happy. So you're like, okay, I can get a mortgage. I'm qualified for this amount of money. And most of the time, this document that they provide you, once you've shown to be qualified for a mortgage, has a date on it. It says if you don't touch any of your stuff on your credit, this is good for X amount of days that you should be able to be qualified for a loan. So now we're back to our real estate salesperson. And again, this also is a licensed person who is licensed to sell real estate. They have to take certain classes, they have to pass an exam, and the exception to this is that if it is an active attorney that is licensed, they can actually act as many of the careers that you'll hear about along the way. Real estate salesperson being one. So if you, for instance, have an attorney that you already have on retainer, you can call your attorney and say, hey, I'd like to purchase this piece of real estate, and the transaction can begin in your attorney's office instead of maybe with some of these other parts. So the real estate salesperson is the next person that you've contacted, and they 9 times out of 10 work for a broker, and the word broker is actually just a catch-all term that just means negotiator. So a lot of these parts will have brokers as a part of it. So you can have a real estate broker, which is the person who is taking financial and lawful responsibility over the whole transaction. The real estate salesperson is the, please forgive me, the entry level into the real estate sales portion. So this person has taken certain classes and has passed an exam, done a background check, given their fee to the state, etc., in order to legally sell real estate through a broker. The broker is basically saying this salesperson is under my brokerage, and I am taking responsibility to oversee all of the transactions that this salesperson conducts. So while the real estate agent is an important person. It is the person that you interact with. The broker is actually the one who is giving the overall approval of the documentation, etc., to do with the real estate transaction that you 9 times out of 10 will get from your real estate salesperson. So your broker, on top of the regular sales exam that the real estate salesperson has taken, has to have an additional set of years of experience as a salesperson. So a broker has an additional 3, 4, 5 plus years in the real estate industry as a salesperson before they can even sit for their exam. They also have to take additional classes, and then they have to pass this exam again, licensure, again, paying fees in order to be listed on the state's listing of brokers as a broker. So this ensures that this used to be salesperson who has now sat for the brokerage exam is qualified to conduct transactions in real estate essentially without supervision. That is what the test and those additional classes passing means. So, who can work at a brokerage? Uh, it can be buyer's agents, and it could be seller's agents, or it could just be an agent, period. So, a buyer's agent is a person who is responsible for taking people who are interested in purchasing real estate to the through the listings that are of interest to them, meeting them at properties, etc., in order to represent the buyer's side of the transaction. Likewise, a seller's agent is a agent that solely represents sellers, people that are putting their properties on the market and who are interested in selling. Now, all of these careers are almost the first work from home careers that I ever knew of. This is something that long ago, when there were real estate agents that were working in offices, they just would have a desk. So they would mostly work from home, but they would have a desk inside the broker's office in order to make telephone calls and do basic office things. But now, in today's landscape, a real estate agent can basically do primarily the majority of their job, if not all of their job, from home. Both of these careers, whether it's a buyer's agent, a seller's agent, or just a regular real estate salesperson, are paid by commission. So every time a transaction is concluded meaning closed, the person get the keys, it's all done, then the real estate agent of whichever side receives a commission. So this is really important to know. When you're dealing with a real estate salesperson, they want to deal with people who are ready to purchase real estate. So if it's not your turn, if you're not qualified yet, the time where real estate agents would drive people around for days and days and days and look at 50 properties and they're not qualified for a mortgage are over with. Those times don't exist anymore. So you will go through the process and you will see a loan officer. You can see a loan officer at your bank. You can see one that the real estate agent recommends to you through a brokerage. You can see whomever it is that you need, but you will see these different careers throughout your transaction of becoming a homeowner. So next, okay, so the real estate agent has gotten you to the point where you found the house, they help you with the documentation, you put your offer in, great. Now that your offer has been accepted, what do you do next? There's a couple of steps that you need to do in order to ensure that that property is up to your standards. The first thing that you need to do is understand what you're actually buying. What is the land boundary that you're interested in purchasing. So you need to find out where your property line ends and the neighbor's begins, or where the street ends and your property line begins. The person that you contract to do this work is called a surveyor, as in a survey, like where people answer questions, but more like a geography and math surveyor of a specific property. At the end of their work, you will end up with a map that shows you specifically where your boundary lines on the property that you're looking to purchase end and the next person's begins. And you will be able to keep that for the long term, so that, for instance, if you find out that the neighbor to the right of you, 10 years down the line decides to build a fence 8 inches into your space, you'll be able to have that map that's already been created that exactly shows where the boundary belongs. And you can go out there with your tape measure and say, hey, this is 8 inches further than it belongs, and you are on the correct side of the property on that side, but on the wrong side of the property on this side. So yes, a surveyor, as a career will normally work for a larger corporation. These are people who can have experience of any kind. They're normally salaried individuals that make between 40 to 70 US 40 to 70,000 US dollars annually. So as a salary position, of course, they are going to properties that are given from their corporation, and then they have to provide those maps. So now that you have understood exactly where your property line is and you know what you're buying, who would you talk to next? This one is actually optional. A lot of people decide that they don't want to do this part, which is totally fine, but I've never heard of a real estate agent that said, you know what, don't worry about the inspection. This is a home inspection. So to get a home inspection, you'll need to speak with a home inspector. You will call and schedule a time for this person to be able to come and look at your property and do basic assessments on many functions of the home. For just a few, they're going to look at the foundation. They're going to look in the attic. They're going to look at the HVAC system, the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning system, the electrical system, the plumbing system. And the reason why some people decide against using a home inspector altogether and they just decide to waive the inspection is because there's a threshold as to how far this inspection goes. It is always up to the person who's purchasing to do their due diligence, but 9 times out of 10, the person who's purchasing the property, especially residential, doesn't know the difference. That's the reason why they're hiring someone. This is their first time buying a property, might be their last time. So they may not be astute in every single area to be able to determine that they don't need this inspection or that they do, or etc. So the threshold is usually pretty low. It's almost to the point where the home inspector, when they're inspecting for plumbing, they just make sure there is plumbing, right? So it just depends on to what degree this home inspection is to go and what you specify that you have a need for, because there still can be problems after you have a home inspection, but if you don't have a home inspection at all, then you won't even know the basics. So again, home inspectors are individuals that get paid by the amount of inspections that they do. So they are on a per inspection payment basis. So you would call them and say, hey, I want an inspection. They'd ask you what kind of property you have. Is it a duplex? Is it a fourplex apartment building? Is it a single family home, condo, etc.? And then they will quote you the price for it, and that is how they are paid. In order to become a home inspector, again, this is a person who's taken certain classes, they've passed an exam, probably submitted fingerprints, paid a fee to the state, etc. So, one of the most time consuming steps in purchasing a home is going to be our next career, which is a title insurance agent. Title insurance agents are people whose job it is to create a, I think they call it a chain of ownership. It's basically a document that shows from the time that this property was created, all of the people who have owned it up until the point where it is now, which is with the seller, so that you can determine that it is able to be purchased. So this requires quite a bit of research, unless, of course, there's a lot of this that's been done already, but most of the time this requires quite a bit of research. And it doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal, but this is an actual insurance agent. It is title insurance that one is able to have after the title agent goes through the process of doing this proper research. So, why does one need insurance on a title? It's because after you purchase this property, just knowing that someone can come back in 2 weeks and say, hey, this is not your property. You have insurance that's available because a professional has gone through the process of determining that based on their research, they have determined that no one else is able to lay claim to this property and that it is free to be sold to you. So, yes, this is an actual item that you receive as part of your closing documents from this title insurance agent that gives you the coverage in order to lay claim that no one else is able to lay claim to the property as of now, and that you are able to purchase it. All kinds of old things can come up on properties. People have all kinds of ways to lay liens on properties. Families sometimes have a will and multiple people are supposed to be owners, but then only one family member actually has any interest in providing any follow up for the property, and then they've been the only one doing maintenance and upkeep, etc. But then when it's time to sell it and there's going to be some money in the transaction, then all of a sudden all the other people who could have laid claim to the property show up. So title insurance is a very important step because, again, it just takes care of all of these things that could potentially come up ahead of time. And then once this title agent is sure that they have provided you as much information as they could that shows in good faith that this property is free and clear, they then provide you with an insurance policy saying, hey, I guarantee that this place is available to be sold free and clear to you, which is great. So, at the title company, which is the last step in this process, there are escrow officers that are responsible for taking all these documents that you have acquired so far. So you have mortgage documents. Well, first you have a purchasing contract from the real estate agent. You have you have a mortgage agreement from your loan officer. You have a survey from your surveyor. You have a home inspection from your home inspector. And you also have a title, hopefully that's free and clear, that's going to allow you to purchase this property without any claims on it, etc. Now, there is a mediator that is the holder of all of these items that ensures that in order for this transaction to go through, everything on both the seller and the buyer's part has been submitted. whether that's money being exchanged, which of course, if you're buying a property, there's a lot of that, but also the documentation that's required legally to be signed, that is supposed to be put on certain records, things that are within this transaction. The escrow officer or the title company works as this mediator to they're neutral. So they work to ensure that both sides of the transaction have everything that they need and then are able to help swap all of the items needed. So if the original owner had the keys, after all the documentation is signed and after the title insurance has been given and all of those other parts are put together at the title company, then the escrow officer can work with the buyer to sign all the documents that are needed, extend time for any other questions that they have, explain anything that's on the contracts, and then when it's all said and done, ensure that the money gets to the seller and that the keys get to the buyer. So you will experience lots of careers as you go along the process of buying a property, and it seems like as you go along it's just more people that get into the mix, but everyone has a very important part to play. And the reason why a lot of people get their closings held up is because there's something missing. And there's always room for something to be missing because that escrow officer or that title company is not going to let you close on your transaction until every part of this has been taken care of. Every document from everywhere, every check from everywhere, everything has to be in place before that title company will give you an appointment for you to close. And it doesn't matter how many times you've been promised times, until everything is in place, there will be no closing. So, of course, there has to be someone with the job of making sure everything goes correctly, and that is the job of the title company or the escrow officer. And escrow officers actually work underneath the title company in a specific position. Again, these are licensed people. Sometimes they can be licensed underneath the escrow company, but these are individuals that have this information and knowledge to know exactly what documents are needed, XYZ. So I do want to throw one caveat out there, which is earlier I talked about being able to do some of this transaction with your attorney. Listen, you're not going to hear me say it very often because there's all types. But attorneys sometimes get a bad rap. In the real estate game, if you have a good attorney, it can really, really be beneficial because an attorney can take many of these positions that we spoke about underneath the prerequisite of already having passed the bar exam. If you know anyone who is an attorney and watch them study for the bar exam, watch them take this 3 day exam, a 3 day all day exam, study for months, XYZ, study groups and books. I mean, listen, I have been with friends that were studying for the bar exam, doing practice questions and the whole nine. I wanted to cry. You have to know like the whole law. Like not just one part, like the whole law. So for anybody who's passed the bar exam, God bless you. You know, more power to you. It's most definitely useful for a attorney to be able to do many of these careers without having to do any prerequisites other than paying the license fee, etc., because they have a very good grip on how contracts work, and a lot of this is contract work. So having real estate experience is very good. It's beneficial, but having that practicing license for law is very helpful as a prerequisite that gets you qualified to do a lot of these positions. So at the end of the day, you have purchased a house and you did meet many people along the way, all of them very helpful, all of them have a specific role to play, and hopefully you have everything that you want. Now, you get this house and you decide you want to stay in it for 5 years, and on the 5th year, you get transferred to a new location. You decide that everything's been good, you're ready to upgrade to a new house, and guess what? You don't even want to sell this one. You just want to buy a new house, and now you're an investor. So for Kiera of All Trades, Careers in Real Estate, Investment Edition, you will find out some of the details that are different in some of the careers of people that you will run into on the investment route, because sometimes people become investors on purpose, sometimes on accident, but there are a lot of different parts that people can play in the investment part. So that's it for today. This has been Kiera of All Trades. Today, this was Careers in Real Estate, Residential Edition. I really had fun going through this. This is really valuable information for people who are in the industry, for people who want to purchase homes, people who are just interested in having jobs that don't necessarily require bachelor's degrees and master's degrees. A lot of these, you can have a high school diploma, go and take the specific classes and sit for the license. People do it every day. So there are always positions that you can work from home, things that you can manage your own time. Real estate agents were one of the first ones, as I mentioned, that had full control over their time. They work by commission, so for a lot of them, as much effort as they put in, they got out. May not always be a 1-for-1, but you understand the concept. So again, thank you very much for coming to the show. This has been Kiera of All Trades. So again, please feel free to visit us on our website, freshfactory.com. Thank you so much for coming to the show. I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening. Bye.